Everybody wants to be noticed. Even for just a second, maybe more. Recognition could be the greatest wonder. Being seen could grow addictive. Attention could become food, and people would starve without it. It could become a drug, and even the most negative kind of attention could be enough to satisfy. Lulu Lockewit wanted positive attention, the kind of attention that would put her name in the newspaper, in people's mouths, in people's minds. Nothing would be better than being as well known and beloved as the grand voice who Lulu looked up to just as much, if not more, than everybody else. One chime. I will be a voice. Or a whisper, perhaps? Maybe neither, but one chime I'll be a headline. A story. But what would I do to make such an impact? Would I invent something new? Discover something? Discovery sounds promising.
Lulu!
A wise voice interrupted, bringing Lulu's attention back into reality.
I said your name about 15 times.
Sorry. The inker sheepishly smiled down at her editor, Binx Inkley. He resembled a small, tubby cat, about 3 feet in height. Though his appearance was very feline, he had the big horns of a ram framing his elderly face and eyes of sunset. His most notable features, though, were his whiskers and eyebrows, both long, white, and curled at the tips. He wore reading glasses and a gray sombrerian coat, which opened up for his fluffy, plump belly to poke out of, hanging over his black pants.
I don't want to be a nag, but your dozing has got to stop, Lockewit.
Binx warned, his tone stern yet touched with worry and care.
I don't want you to miss my critiques on your writing. You're a fine writer, but you could use some more touch-ups.
Binx held a paper up to her, which had some circles and lines in dark magenta ink pointing out any mistakes. I know, I'm sorry. Lulu apologized, but her tone suggested as if this has happened before, and it has. She bent down and took the paper from him. I'm just distracted. Another inker walked in, his skin twinkling like glitter, giving Lulu a look that said, Again? Don't be an ass, Oberon. Lulu rolled her eyes.
Language, Lockewit!
Binx quickly scolded her.
Yes, language.
Oberon teased, earning a playful glare from Lulu. Oberon was like a night sky, his freckled body large and muscular, yet the way his shoulders slumped suggested a submissive demeanor. Behind a humble crown of 10 stubby red horns was an icy waterfall of hair, which fell down his back and led to his tail, long and tufted at the tip. His large chest also had fluff between the pecs. He had the face of a beastly man, dangerous bottom cane lines poking from his lips, a lionish nose above, and 4 pointed ears. His eyes were white, the sclera scarlet like his nose, horns, and claws, and slashed across his focused yet kind eyes were icy stripes, which also decorated his soft lips. His outfit was Laquetian, a red dress shirt under a black vest, silver chains hanging from his chocolatey belt that held up dark pants. He dressed modestly. Clearly, he wasn't a very showy man. I've heard you curse before, Oberon. Lulu grinned up at her 10-foot friend. Don't act so innocent.
Never said I was.
He put his large hands up.
I was just agreeing with the boss.
Kiss ass, Lulu grumbled, earning a glare from her editor. Binx then cleared his throat.
Lulu, I can tell you're distracted. By chance, are you thinking of her again?
No, this isn't about that.
Then what is it? The sooner we get this fixed, the sooner our work gets done.
Fixed? It's not a problem. I don't have a problem. Lulu furrowed her eyebrows, her ear twitching. Then Oberon spoke up.
It's becoming a problem. I've seen you start to doze off nearly every bell.
He exclaimed.
You dream so hard, your eyes start crossing.
They do not.
They do, Lou. One of these chimes, I'm going to walk in and see a doll faced over your desk.
Oh, that's bullsh. She stopped, sensing Binx's eyes on her. Sighing, she backed away from the 2 males. Anyway, I'll look over your corrections, Mr. Inkley. And with that, she was headed down the hall. Lulu Lockewit would be best described as a 6'6" anthropomorphic corgi, her curvy, plump body covered in minty fur. Her middle, brows, cheeks, and bottom had a lighter green, almost white, highly contrasting the inky shade that slithered around her waist from her spine and also bled from her golden eyes. Her ears, snout, fingers, toes, and the very tip of her short tail had also been dipped in ink. From her back and head sprouted an obnoxious display of pink fire, a messy mane dark at the roots, frosted at the tips. Like Oberon, she had a fluffy flame ignited on her chest, which poked out from her Laquetian jacket. Lulu's outfit was a moody shade of dark pink, golden chains hanging from her breast pocket and belt, jingling as she walked. As Lulu entered her dorm, she let out a sigh, kicking away balls of crumpled-up paper and other litter to make a path to her bed. She then sat down, took in a breath, and began to look over the corrections of her writing. At least for a little bit. While reading, Lulu shifted, changing her positions at least 6 times. She lay on her stomach, then rolled onto her back, then sat up against the wall, then back on her stomach, and then tried laying over the edge of her bed with her head hung upside down, but that quickly became uncomfortable, so she moved back against the wall. At this point, she started getting more and more distracted. Her eyes stayed on the paper, but her ears turned and flicked at every noise. A nail tapping on a desk in another room, hissing from the ink machines downstairs. She also noticed yelling from outside, a salesman announcing the latest gossip as he handed out newspapers. Soon she started to notice her own bodily noises. She could hear her heart beating loudly, a ringing in her head, saliva squelching under her tongue, hot breath escaping her mouth. Her head pounded, and her eyes looked over the same paragraph over and over again. She kept forgetting what it said, even though she had just read it. Her head started ringing, the noise was only getting louder. She could feel the buzzing of the light in her eyes. It was like a song, but the worst kind, the kind that gets into your head and never leaves. Only this song had ugly instruments. She couldn't take it. It was too quiet, and it was so loud. Lulu had to get fresh air. She would work on her writing later, when she was ready, so she exited the Inkhouse. Unfortunately, this was a common occurrence for Lulu, though it wasn't normal. She wasn't normal. At least that's what she believed. Lulu Lockewit headed down the stone street of Miviam, escaping the noisy building that was Whiskerworks Inkhouse. It was a fine establishment, but nothing very special, nothing very notable. It was a smaller building than most others, not very well known, but competent enough. She soon walked by the shouting salesman from earlier, taking a newspaper for herself. Vile bonfire, food poisoning, missing people, lost ink, she mumbled, skimming over the paper for something interesting. Brightsmith! She brought her full attention to a section titled, Brightsmith Dolly Performs Stunt That Leaves Audience Baffled. Under the title was a detailed sketch of Month, the dolly in question. Month was stunning, his thin, furless body half nude pink and half scarlet, some symmetrical patterns on his limbs, face, and torso, the opposing side's color. He had poodle features as well, such as curly white hair upon his head, at his ankles, wrists, and the tip of his black tail. He also had features of a mule, such as hooves and small ears. His face was canine, almost having the illusion of makeup, with his mischievous black lips, sharp eyebrows, and frosty long eyelashes which framed sapphire eyes. A cute heart-shaped nose sat above his smile, giving another illusion, an innocent face. Lulu smiled upon seeing her longtime friend in the newspaper, but it quickly faded as she realized. Her friend was in the newspaper. She was not. "I'm happy for him," she thought, slouching as she continued her walk. "Month is talented. He always has been." She walked faster. "It's not a problem if he's famous. It's good. It's a good thing." Faster. "Maybe if I stayed at Brightsmith, I would be in the newspaper too." "No! Don't be selfish, Lulu. It doesn't matter. It happened to him and not you. It's just reality. Don't be jealous. Your time might come. Everybody will see you and—" Lulu groaned. She was face down on the stone street, her snout slowly burning up with a sting of pain. She had tripped over her own feet. Also a common occurrence for her. She quickly stood up and brushed herself off, looking around frantically to make sure nobody saw. "Nice one, Lulu," she scolded herself. "I guess Oberon had a point. Might as well ride myself thinking so hard." She chuckled bitterly, then continued her walk. Eventually, she walked into a book burrow. It wasn't very busy. "Maybe about 20 people in here?" Lulu thought to herself. "That would make me 21 now that I'm here." Strange. Lulu furrowed her eyebrows at such a useless observation, but quickly shook it off and walked into the aisle. She wasn't looking for anything specific. She just needed something to do before she was ready to get back to work. "What if they notice I'm gone?" Lulu's brain reminded her. "You could get in trouble. You need to go back and make yourself work. It's not going to kill you. Just get it done." She continued to nag herself, but ignored it at the same time. Then something caught her eye. Someone. A cloaked figure, about 8-ish feet in height, stuffing books inside their cloak. They would grab a book, look into it, and either put it back or take it. What are they doing? Stealing books? Only specific ones? The figure stopped as if they could hear Lulu's thoughts. She then quickly hid, but kept her ears perked up to listen. The figure continued to shuffle quietly, her ears then picking up a thump, an ow, quick footsteps, then a thud. She took a moment to wait before looking back over into the aisle. The figure was gone, but something remained. A book on the floor. It was a dark green color, a swampy green, with gold design on its edges. Fancy book. She examined it, picking it up. She then read the title, Never Found. Thump, ow, footsteps, and a thud. The book must have made the thud, the footsteps were running. The book must have fell out of the cloak. Lulu pieced it together. The ow was from the thump, so they must have grabbed the book and began to leave, but then they bumped into something and stumbled and dropped it by accident. Lulu smiled, happy with herself, but she wanted more, so she opened the book to see what was in it. What could possibly be the reason why it was stolen? The first thing she saw when she opened the book was the illustration of a beast, a large, dragonish man with dark formations growing from his back and head, appearing like curled tentacles or horns of some kind. His face was an angry one, and his eyes were completely white. His mouth, oddly, was split into 4 sections, his top and bottom jaws splitting apart like flower petals. Beside the illustration was another illustration of the same man, but he looked different, less angry, normal eyes, a white mane, and 2 Yolshin strikes around his muzzled neck. Dividus was the name above his illustrations. Runaway blood letter. Never found. Never found, Lulu read. By anyone. Her head slowly rose in realization. Discovery.